So then the commenter says, when we experience a horror, go somewhere. I'm guessing we go somewhere. We go somewhere that doesn't have a horror and is nice. Probably end of sentence right there. This is also true in nature. And essentially what he's describing is a negative reinforcer. You know, kind of like how if you touch the stove when it's hot, you're going to move your finger right away. Or if you're really, really cold, you're going to run inside or something like that. So I agree with him on this, although I think it's important to recall what we talked about before with the rats who are addicted to hurting themselves, that this isn't necessarily a law of nature. Reward systems can make people interact with things that are horrors in a way simply by dopamine mediated compulsions. So for example, in the rat study I just talked about, that electric shock still hurt the rats very much, but they couldn't get away from it. So it's safe to say that we won't always run away from something just because something is a horror. Here it's really important that I touch on a possible criticism of what I just said about the rats still always interacting with the electric rod despite it being a horror. One might say that, well, you're activating their dopamine systems. That's actually pleasurable. So is it really a horror if it's activating pleasure? And to that, I would say that dopamine and pleasure are separate. There's a separation between liking and wanting. And we can see this in studies where they use a neurotoxin to basically knock out all the dopamine receptors in a rat's brain and see that these rats still like food just as much as rats that have totally intact dopamine systems. From this, we can say that pleasure isn't reliant on dopamine, but that isn't to say that there isn't a correlation between pleasuring things and things that release dopamine, as most things that are pleasurable also release dopamine. Dopamine just doesn't cause pleasure.